Hello everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to have a look at the BankNifty and a lovely Holy Grail short that managed to catch the sharp decline in the BankNifty that unfolded today, which is October the 11th. But first, as usual, I'd like to start with our risk disclaimer and remind you that all examples in these videos should be considered as hypothetical. No trades are actually taken. They're just shown for illustration and training purposes only. Remind you there's a risk of loss in trading and investing. We'll be looking at a losing trade in today's video as well. All trade decisions are your own sole responsibility. Right, onto the chart. This is the BankNifty on a 3-minute chart today, and as you can see we had a very sharp decline here. So I'd like to have a look at this from the viewpoint of a slightly more advanced MTPredictor user rather than one who's just following our MTP trend, because you can see we had some sell setups at the top here, but our MTP trend was blue. Normally for the more experienced user we go out to the 15-minute chart for our higher time frame, but today I'm going to go out to the hourly chart for a slightly longer term perspective. Normally the larger degree time frame is between 3 and 5 time frames higher, so for a 3-minute chart we're normally looking at the 15-minute chart. But today I want to have a look at the hourly chart to get a larger perspective, and in particular look at the last swing into this low. If I right mouse click, do Elliott wave intermediate, you can see this was also a 5-wave sequence going down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With the low coming in right at one of our WT support levels. From our isolation approach to Elliott wave, we know that once a 5-wave sequence is complete, then normally we retrace back to the DP from the prior wave 4. So we go back to this wave 4 high, right mouse click, do decision point. This would have been a resistance area that would have been on our chart for many days. We actually had a bad data point there, so we'll ignore that. But if I drag this out, can you see where the high of the day came in today, right at this decision point resistance? Also, not only is this a 5-wave sequence, but this is the last swing into this low, and that's another reason for using the DP off this pivot. This is what we're covering in the last MTPredictor customer-only training webinar. So can you see on this slightly longer term chart, which was the hourly chart, we had a resistance area up here as an area where we were expecting the market to make a reversal, and that had been on your chart for, well, quite a number of days, in fact for a week or so. So it would have been there ready. So what happens then when we come back to our 3-minute chart? Just wait till this loads. There's our 3-minute chart, and as you can see, this is what the BankNifty did today. It opened and then basically spent some time in this resistance area, but then before declining. So can you see how, because it was at the resistance area, the more experienced user, rather than going just with our MTP color-coded blue trend here, would have then said we're at larger degree resistance, and therefore would like to try and take some short trades. So let's just zoom in a bit. In fact, what I'll do is, can I remove that now? Actually, no, I'll leave that on there, the resistance area. So there was a VS sell set up here. So let's do a right mouse click over the red sell bar, do analysis, and here you would have entered a short trade. The market didn't reach its first target and would have been stopped out for a -1 hour loss. This is what I said at the beginning of the video, is that losing trades can and will and do unfold. There's all professional traders know and understand that. But we use correct position sizing, in this case less than 2% risk on a sample rupee account, as you can see here, to keep this risk small and under control. So this would be what we call a 1R or 1 risk unit loss. We then get another VS sell setup. If I go on that red sell bar there and then do the analysis again, this time the market got you short and actually went down. If I zoom in a bit, didn't get stopped out, went down to the first target there where a nice 4.8 hour profit was available. So that more than made up for the losing trade earlier. In fact, that was a very nice trade there as well. Our MTP trend was weak. In other words, the MTP trend was less than or weaker than our grey strength band, which was down here. Therefore, you'd come out at the target. So that would have been a nice trade. So far, one losing trade, one profitable trade. We then zoom along a bit. We then had a history triangle here. Now if I place the analysis on this red cell bar, you can see this actually got you into a short trade, and actually this high here where this I'll just clear that off so I can see it. Whoops, clear all. This TS3 Holy Grail cell here, this was actually a double top. If I have a look at this, you can see the high of that bar there was 67.25. The high of that bar there was 67.25 as well. So if you entered a short trade on this history triangle, you would have actually still been short. So that's why sometimes when you have history triangles, they don't always mean they're losing trades. You have to place the analysis on to see whether you would have actually been stopped out. So let's right mouse click, do the analysis, and if I go across a bit, this would have been your potential profit target there. Let's go across a bit. So that would have been a potential 5.7 hour profit. But can you see the difference now with our trade management is because our strength band had gone beyond our MTP trend had gone beyond our strength band right back here somewhere. Do you see that? It had gone through it a few bars earlier. This meant that we were anticipating that the market was strong. In other words, the move was going to go further. So what we do is, once we get to our target, if the market is strong, in other words, if our MTP trend is beyond our strength band, rather than coming out at the target, we then swap to our ATR stop for our trade management. These are our red and blue dots on our chart here. So that meant, rather than coming out back up here, if I reset the scale, it would have actually kept you short. You see here the red dots? Follow my cursor. There's the red dots, there's the red dots, there's the red dots to there, and you would have actually been stopped out about there for an absolutely massive profit. In fact, that was absolutely a ridiculously large profit. So what I'll do actually is, rather than come off that first TS3 cell, I'll come off this second one here. And even off the second one, the profit then was almost 30R, or just over 30 times greater than the initial risk. So this was an absolutely amazing trade and a great example of our Holy Grail trade setup, where we tried to get you in the market before a strong move. Then our MTP trend allowed you to, rather than coming out at our first target, which would have been right up here, allowed you to run with the market as it basically collapsed here, and allowed you to increase the profits all the way down. So an extremely good trade there, and showing the power of the MTPredictor trade setups. But it was all initiated, or all basically set up, because of this, if I zoom out a bit, because of this 60-minute DP resistance area up here. And because that would have been on your chart in advance, literally days and weeks in advance, you would have been prepared for a potential high coming in today. Obviously no one knew that this was going to be such a big decline, but nevertheless it would have actually had you going short. Again, this would be for the more experienced users, because our MTP trend was blue. It would have been nice if this had been red, but for the more experienced users, because this was giving you advanced warning of hourly resistance, then you could be looking for short trades. As we've seen, the first one would have been a losing trade. Losses can and will and do happen. The next one would have been a nice profitable trade. Then this TS3 Holy Grail sell would have got you short and caught the decline down there. Running with our ATR stop would have actually amassed an absolutely brilliant profit. So a very good day for MTPredictor, for the advanced users, I should say, of MTPredictor on the BankNifty today, which is the 11th of October.